everybody, I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salveson, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you the knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer. But before today's show, let's listen to our sponsors. From traditional headsets to in-ear communications, Cavcon offers rugged and reliable choices for any communication challenge and any harsh environment. Cavcon's award-winning Talk Through Your Ears technology is specifically designed for clear and consistent in-suit communications. Whether you're working from a quiet control room or responding to an incident in a full level A, Cavcom has the comm system that's right for you. Any suit, any respirator, any radio, any environment. Check them out at cavcominc.com, that's CAVCOMINC.com, or give them a call at 866-547-4988.
Now let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is another episode of the Hazmat Guys. We are looking at episode 175. Today we are going to be getting into sheltering in place and evacuation.
Yeah, before we get into that, I just want to let you guys know where we are going to be. April 12th, we're going to be in the New York State Hazmat Conference of 2019, of course. Good time had by all up there. I'm looking forward to that. I just got back from the Whammer. The Wisconsin.
Whammer.
Yeah,
Whammer.
Wisconsin. I just got back a couple days ago, and it was a good time. Saw a whole bunch of people. I promised quite a few of them that I would give a good amount of props up for them. Greg and all the lads up there were fantastic. They actually didn't fall asleep during my keynote. And,
That's always such a good feeling when like people are still awake after you're done speaking.
Oh, it was exhilarating, actually. I was kind of surprised and glad at the same time, but... Yeah, this we're going to New York State, and then I am driving from the state, going right to the National Fire Academy to take a class with one guy he's teaching the class that was on our show about hazmat codes.
Yes.
Jim Jarris, if you listen back episodes ago. But also the last one I'm going to mention is the Midwest with Rick Emery and the lads up there. That is going to be May 2nd to the 4th. And we're probably going to come out with an episode or two up there. I'm trying to work that out and see what we can bring back.
That would be great.
The Midwest.
Get a couple of those guys on.
Yeah. Yeah, get a couple of people to come on the show and discuss some stuff. But for this one, we're kind of taking... This is a big topic. This is one of those topics that you don't realize is a big topic until you actually start thinking about it. Right. And I think the majority of the guys out there do not give two craps about this because it's a command structure thing. You know, it's a boss problem. Well, I've been in a couple operations where this was a decision. It's either shelter in place or evacuation. And this is a heavy decision to make.
Yeah, and it doesn't just stop with the command because I got to be honest with you, there's plenty for us lowly firefighters and technicians to do when it comes to helping to make that decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I don't, yeah.
So it all kind of starts off with the basic concept of what the hell is sheltering in place?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's the idea that sometimes in some situations, the people in the affected area, they might actually be safer staying inside an area versus being outside in order to accomplish an evacuation.
Right, and when we say inside the area, we don't mean, it doesn't necessarily mean in the hot zone, it doesn't mean in the warm zone, it doesn't mean the cold zone. We're just saying that they're going to stay in a place that there's no way for us to, evaluate every single structure, but it doesn't mean they have to stay put, right? There's going to be criteria that we would use in order to say, hey, go into or get into your safe area. So I think the first question we're going to have to ask is, and we're going to focus mainly, geez, I don't know.
MoMA, are you giving a MoMA reference?
Momo. Why we would shelter in place in the first place.
Right. Well, there's actually a couple of different reasons or answers that help satisfy that. But for the most part, they all land within like a cost-benefit analysis, right? That situation where we balance out risk versus reward. And pretty much everything we do is all this risk versus reward. And my parents are a really good example of this in Florida. They live down in, I don't know, God's waiting room, along with Kosh for his number to come up. Love you, buddy. But they got, a couple of years ago or last summer, something like that, they got nailed with like a Category 5. And much to my chagrin, they decided to shelter in place, which is really what they did. And they stayed in their house. They made that risk-benefit analysis. Now, they don't live in like a mobile home. They live in one of these houses made of concrete that has been specifically designed for a hurricane. And the only thing that happened to them was they lost power. If they had lived in a stick home, their cost-benefit analysis maybe have told them that they had to evacuate. But for them, evacuating was going to be more hazardous than just staying in place.
Right.
So
And this is a great example, right? This is an example of that whole risk-reward, cost-benefit analysis that we do all the time. But we're going to throw a little bit of a hazmat spin on it. And when you have a hazmat, it's not something as blatant as a hurricane.
right.
You know what I'm
Hopefully
saying?
not. If your hazmat is as blatant as a hurricane, you got really big problems.
Right. I mean, the principle remains the same, but the determining factors are just going to be a little bit more, I would say.
Yeah. And in the reverse effect, you can always take these sheltering in place concepts and ideas and switch them over to other things because they're not just for hazmat. We can go through a number of different circumstances, from natural disasters to man-made disasters to active shooters, where sheltering in place may be your best option. It's just this is a hazmat show. So obviously we felt it necessary to really focus on the different types of sheltering in places that would be involved in your typical hazmat run. But there's sheltering in place, and then there's also evacuation, right?
Right. So let's just break that apart a little bit. So in general, I'm leaving these very broad. Shelter in place is for a short-term duration operation where I have something with high vapor pressure, something that wants to go up and out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want the people to stay in place because there is an enormous amount of logistics in moving people out, right? On the other hand, I have evacuations, which I get people out of the zone. However, the logistics of moving people out is tremendous. And sometimes you have, crowding, and you have trampling and stampeding, and you have people, a person is smart, but people are dumb.
Yes. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups.
Right. And so, I mean, just the small things like, hey, get out of the city because of a hurricane or a tornado or something like that. My westbound lanes now are turned into eastbound lanes, so I can get 6 lanes going out. Or some effect of that.
Right.
There's an enormous amount of logistics moving evacuations. The problem with this is that this all rests on the incident commander, right? So he's got to make that call, and I'm going to say it's a heavy lift to do because either way you're going to be screwed.
Do you feel the incident commander at some point is going, no matter what way they go, there will always be something that goes wrong?
Yeah.
And no matter what decision they make, they are going to be Monday morning quarterbacked for that?
I absolutely think so. I think if one person has a heart attack in a shelter in place, they should have got out. Or if there's an evacuation, there's a stampede, and one person falls down the staircase, they should have stayed in. It just takes one time,
So because you have command experience, I'm just kind of a lowly firefighter running around here. Where do you think that line is? Like, give me an example of a run for you that you would be teetering on that fine line of, should I evacuate, should I shelter in place? And this is off the cuff, guys.
Yeah,
so give him a few seconds to kind of contemplate this.
All right, so let me work this out. Let's say this is right in front of me right now, and I am a non-hazmat chief. The first thing I would do is get in consult with a hazmat person because there are questions I need answered in order for me to make this decision. And so if I'm now the hazmat guy, and you're asking me if I should shelter in place or evacuate. I hope I don't oversimplify this because there's a million variables you can put in there. Like, what happens if it's a hospital, or it's next to the nunnery, or an orphanage, or the gasoline factories right next to, there's a million variables. So please give me a second on this one. But I would say I would need to know weather. I would need to know the chemical. I would need to know what kind of staffing and what kind of resources you have either coming in or at scene, how involved your police department is, right? Because if there is going to be an evacuation, I have 4 people to evacuate them. I don't have enough people.
No.
Sheltering might be the better place. I would say, what's my communication method of getting, if I was to pick shelter in place, it's good to tell them shelter in place, but if you don't keep feeding people that are sheltering in place information, they get squirrely.
And they shelter elsewhere.
Yeah, they shelter elsewhere, and maybe not to your liking, and they might put themselves in worse position because they half sheltered and half evacuated. So there's a million things. It's going to be a really incredibly hard thing to answer, but what I'm hoping is that we can start a conversation with people out there and say, what would you do? Pick any operation. Would you shelter in place or evacuate? And I hate that it depends. Pick a scenario and just commit to it.
Detail the scenario.
Yeah.
And then
until
go with
it doesn't depend. So one of the types of emergencies that we could shelter in place for is a bomb, right? A bomb, some type of incendiary device, whatever it might be. And the major part of the problem is like the heat, the mechanical from the sharp metal. We're worried about the penetration. What would you call it? Penetration. What the hell is the other word? Inhalation, absorption, penetration? Why am I having injection?
Injection. The way
Injection,
things can
right.
get inside of you?
Yeah,
Yes.
hazmats get inside you, even pressure waves and stuff like that, displacing organs, crushing, areas in your body that have air pressure, like your sinuses and your eardrums and stuff like that. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on with a bomb, huh? There's a lot of different ways a bomb can kill you.
Ooh, good God.
And so then we sit and we talk, all right, well, what is the reality of the evacuation in some of these areas? And me and Bob have a completely different concept of evacuation because sometimes we are in the middle of Manhattan, and if you look at like the ERG and the ATF standoff distances, they're like, yeah, go back like a quarter mile. And it's like, well, I can't evacuate a quarter mile of Manhattan. That's 400,000 people.
Right.
How do you get rid of 400,000 people? But if you're, let's say we're kind of like in the middle of Queens or Staten Island where there's a lot less people, we may be able to actually evacuate that amount. So if you're coming from a large city, you can't always follow through with the recommended distances. You can't always think in terms of absolute, right? You get information in front of you. It says do this, and you got to be able to apply that information and that knowledge to the scenario that's happening around you.
Right. And again, a lot of it comes with the knowledge of who is in charge of what. If you're in charge of the mitigation, then is the police department in charge of evacuations? Like who's helping? So that's something you really need to know. And really, how do you know when you're too close? You open up the ERG, it says, move back 1,000 feet. How far is 1,000 feet? I don't have a measuring tool in my head.
Am I safe at 1,001 feet?
Yeah, right.
Like,
right. I don't know. Basic rule, if you can see it, it can see you. Right. You've seen there's a YouTube video of a bomb that goes off in like Iraq or whatever it is, and the bomb is like a mile away, and then the guy that's holding the camera, it's like soldiers, and the freaking shrapnel goes right by this guy's head.
Oh yeah,
incredible.
Faster than you can almost see it. Like the side of the wall just kind of explodes. You're like, holy crap.
But if you can see it, it can see you. So try to get something between you and the bomb, like a building, a wall, or a corner. As silly as this might sound, be careful of capping it.
Capping it?
Well, I'm just going to drive a fire truck. I'm not saying you should drive a fire truck over the top of it. But I'm saying, in order to save the most amount of people, let me really contain this. Let me put something on top of it that'll contain the blast. Think of it like this. If you have a firecracker in your open hand and it goes off, you get burned. If you close your fingers around it, you blow your fingers off. If you cap an explosive, you amplify the explosive potential of it.
Right.
So resist that one. Deflect it, totally cool. Put a fire truck between you and it.
Yes.
It will deflect it away from you. Don't cap it.
And watch out for your feet because you're not
Right.
really. Yeah. So when we start to look at sheltering in place, obviously the building that we're sheltering in kind of has to match the hazard that we're trying to protect the people against, right? So not all buildings are going to protect you against a bomb blast, right? Like let's look at the Oklahoma City bombing. That took out most of the building. There was no way that building, if they knew that was a bomb, sheltering in place for that building would not have been a very good scenario, all right? So they technically, I guess, were inside. They were sheltering in place technically when that bomb went off, and it didn't work out so well.
You've heard us talk about First Line Technologies' Dahlgren Decon solution and the FiberTech wipes and mitts. They've just come out with Enhanced Decon Systems Kit, which contains everything you need to quickly decontaminate 6 to 24 operators and all their gear in one fully equipped grab-it-and-go bag. This kit has been hazmat team tested and approved, and it's the only full-team modified decon kit with the power of Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes to counter hundreds of known and emerging threats. The EDS kit is perfect for incidents where a small footprint, low logistics decontamination SOP is appropriate. Are you operating in a harsh environment? No problem. Whether it's minus 10 or 104 degrees F, Dahlgren Decon will maintain its effectiveness and can be easily applied to neutralize threats. The kit is stable in temperatures from minus 40 to 160 degrees F if you carry the RSDL with you. If you use all the consumables in the kit, unlike other rapid deployment kits, you do not need to buy a complete kit to resupply. Just purchase one of the First Line EDS replenishment packs and order just the elements you need. When ounces count and the clock is ticking, grab the EDS kit and go. Call the guys at First Line Technology for more information or a quote at 703-955-7510 or email them at sales@firstlinetech.com. All right, so then on that instance, if someone knew that, like, the bomb was there, right, and we have to think about how big the explosion is and what type of building and how it is around it and where the location of it, and you might be like, no, the bomb's too big, right? And we might change over from evacuation to shelter in place depending on those variables.
Right, like if that had been a briefcase bomb instead of a whole truck, that building probably would have been perfect.
Right. So yeah.
How close the building is to the bomb plays a huge role in whether or not that building can be sustained, because the energy coming off an explosion from a physics point of view actually follows similar rules to the like radiation, right? That inverse square rule where if you double your distance, you double your distance, you quadruple your safety. Right?
Yes.
The amount of energy coming off of something, every time it doubles its distance, the amount of energy coming off of it or being perceived is cut by 4.
Right. Yeah. Two different ways of saying the same thing.
Yeah, two different ways of saying the same thing. So basically, the further back you go, the quicker that pressure wave is going to diminish. Now, obviously, there's bouncing and all the other crap that goes along with it, but that's what you have to think about. Like, how close are we? How close is this building? What's this building made of? Is this going to cause massive damage?
Right. And, I mean, we're not getting into building construction and getting the nuance of that, but there's different building classes and building construction techniques. Obviously, concrete is better than, glass.
You think?
But, the building construction and type is going to have an effect on the impact of the explosion. And I remember something, I can't confirm it, if somebody can write in about this one. Something is about urban settings where if there's an explosion, it actually magnifies.
Yes.
Bouncing off of buildings until a certain point and it breaks down again. It's almost like a bell curve. It amplifies and then denigrates.
Because it redirects. Remember how we were talking before about the radiation and that pressure wave diminishing? Well, that's assuming that pressure wave has been directed 360 degrees on all 6 sides. Right. So the pressure wave is coming out like a sphere. It's getting bigger like a sphere. If you were to take some of that energy and redirect it, like let's say you had a bomb sitting on a roadway, okay? Now instead of being 360, you're 360, So now
I see what you're saying.
The energy that would have gone down is now reflected up and is now amplified the pressure wave coming out. And when you start to redirect those energies, those waves come together and they form peaks and valleys, and you can amplify the pressures as they're coming off of things.
Right. Okay. So then, yeah, you know what? That kind of changes the game a little bit then.
A little bit, yeah.
So explosives are no bueno.
No, they're definitely not fun. We gotta think about the what you said before, like the windows, but even staying inside, we got to figure out how the hell we're going to keep people safe.
All right, so then let's talk about how to establish your safest environment inside of a bomb type scenario. Probably number one is going to be stay away from the windows.
Yeah, which sounds really stupid, guys, but during the attempted Times Square bombing, if you look at like media footage of that, there is a bunch of people standing in the windows in the buildings looking to see what's going on.
Yeah. Just taking picture cameras. Oh, what the hell are you doing?
Not the best place to have your people shelter in place. And for that matter, for a bomb especially, any exterior wall that would be facing the blast is you want to keep people away from those exterior walls. Not all exterior walls, just the ones that are facing the blast.
Right, and there's tons of videos on like YouTube about explosives and where safe shelter in place. I'm like tripping on my words today. I don't know what's going on. Seriously, I don't know what the hell's going on.
It's all right. I trip on my words every day. Welcome to my world.
But there's tons of videos. So if you're looking for how to do whatever, how to actually stay safe in a room with a window, without a window, with no door, or whatever it might be, it's like an open door. There's stuff online.
Yeah. And we want to make sure that we have, like Bob said before, we want to be able to get information out to that population. People are only going to shelter in place for so long. So as a command, we got to figure out, how does my agency get a hold of people? Is it cell phones? Is it text message? Is there a representative that's going to be going around to these different places that we've asked people to kind of hunker down in?
Yeah.
It all kind of depends.
A good portion of I'm going to say a very good portion of the LEPCs, like the state level, county level stuff, they have access to the automated text services, like for an Amber Alert, a Silver Alert. That might be something you might want to look into, is test it out. I'm not saying, hey, there's a nuclear bomb coming into Hawaii. That happened a couple of years ago, which is a huge mistake. But you might want to test out and see if you do have access to say, well, I want the people in this area to get notifications. And then how does it follow up? You got to keep them informed. You got to keep them fed. All right, so the next one I think we should probably hit into is the chemical release, which is what I think the vast majority of people will think of when they think shelter in place. When they think hazmat, shelter in place, they think of chemical.
Right.
But it's only one of them.
Which has been actually used tremendously, especially in places like Louisiana, where you have all these industries. Shit happens, and they've been using shelter in place for a long time, and it works really well.
Yeah. And of all these types of harms, we were talking about this before with injection and whatnot. I'm going to say that for the chemical release, inhalation is going to be our greatest concern.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's too many like skin absorption chemicals that we're really going to be super worried about.
No, but I mean, even so, they don't have SCBA. They don't have even a dust mask is going to be a joke compared to if we're actually saying shelter in place. We're dealing with the real deal.
Yeah. So the reality of the evacuation in some areas, again, for generally the more rural areas are actually going to be the ones that are going to be evacuating. The larger populations, again, just like New York City, you can't really evacuate. So the shelter in place may be the fastest way to protect people. And for a long time, this was kind of debated a little bit. It was like, well, if we have a chlorine release and it's outside, like the chlorine's getting into the house, like houses aren't really sealed up unless you're in some like new fancy efficiency house. And so this was actually addressed in the Jackrabbit 2. One of the trials that they did where they released chlorine out in the desert, they set up this whole big mock city. They took a whole bunch of meter readings inside, outside. They looked at profiles. They did all this stuff. And so the next little bit that we're going to read from is actually from the Jackrabbit report. And it really highlights how effective sheltering in place could be for a very, very, very toxic chemical like chlorine. So it starts off by saying, so this next part is quoted directly from Jackrabbit. I want to make sure that they have their proper notation, all right? A key take-home point in this sort of analysis is the plume passing over the individual points relatively quickly. For the Jackrabbit 2 trials, this happened on the order of 5 to 10 minutes, with a few profiles persisting 20 to 30 minutes. They went on to say that
I'll take it over from here.
Oh,
He went on
damn
to say
cold.
the time constant of most buildings, which is 1 over the ventilation rate, is much longer, which is why we got such a benefit from being inside the something. With the longer duration plumes, the results will differ. The interior concentrations were greatly influenced by the peak level of the plume which passed outside the structure. If the peak was high, there was a corresponding high concentration dose inside, which must be exhausted from the structure over time, aka venting, I guess. Dr. Sohn explained that during the experiments, the chlorine mixed evenly with the air inside the structures. This was the typical of his experience with the gas vapor movement and other studies. He said the vapor density was less of a factor inside due to natural air mixing. Dr. Sohn then addressed mitigation strategies supported by the UVW team and recommended the following public actions during release. Number 1, it is almost always better to stay inside than go outside. That's interesting.
Yes, exactly what we're talking about.
Number 2, close the exterior openings and stop the ventilation systems when feasible. Number 3, retreating to an interior room without windows and away from exterior walls provides a magnitude of protection. A closet is ideal because of all the fabric hanging has a higher sorption rate than a bathroom with tile and glass surfaces. Number 4, stay inside until the outdoor concentration is lower than the inside concentration. That's interesting.
That is. And that kind of goes with the whole idea of the plume passing through the area quickly.
Yeah, right. Which then again, I'm stopping in the middle of this, reading this, is that they would need some way of monitoring that.
Yes. Yeah, they would.
Right. They would need some way.
That's where us stupid firemen come into play.
Right.
Where we have to actually go if we've asked people to shelter in place and the plume is passed. We need to have a way of being like, okay, it's worse inside for you now, because at some point it flips. And the air outside is better than the air inside. But
and that's when you move.
That's when you move. But we got to be able to determine that.
Right. So I'm going to continue reading. This relationship between duration and concentration is depicted in figure, whatever. When will the time come that is safe to exit? It depends. I love that. Wind is king when considering when to move. High wind speeds outside, the absence of urban and natural barriers around the structure, and the amount of environmental sorption surfaces will affect the duration of the high concentration around the structure. Also, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so part 2. Now, this is things to consider when determining if a building is indeed suitable.
For a chemical release.
For a chemical release. Now, these groups of scientists, subject matter experts, and emergency response professionals that evaluated Jackrabbit data for this report all concur that the mitigation strategy pronounced in the past, which included duct tape, seals, and plastic, would not be advised.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Because I certainly remember after 9/11, like, people were going nuts trying to get duct tape and plastic and
Totally.
like sealing up their houses.
Totally. I
Yeah.
mean, and what they're referring to is that even in some current classes from some major certifying agencies, we'll say, national level certifying agencies, still have graphics showing this, and in their PowerPoints and slide decks showing, to put plastic over ventilations, which I agree with. But it's saying right here that it would not be advised. Interesting.
I wonder if anybody ever sealed themselves up so well that they would just lose the oxygen in the air. I don't know.
Just put it over your face.
Right, yeah.
Tape.
Just
Put the bag over your head.
save plastic and duct tape and just go right to your neck.
Right to your neck, and then you're all fixed up. All right, anyway, getting back
There's
into
no way chemicals are getting in.
Continuing on, an imminent plume passing over a structure while time is being spent retrieving these materials and applying the correct measures resulted in limited effectiveness of those seals. That's why. The group felt that the mitigation strategies recommended by Dr. Sohn and endorsed by the UVW team are more realistic and possibly more effective than previous strategies in the compressed time frame of an emergency incident. Number 1, it is almost always better to stay inside than go outside. Number 2, close exterior openings to stop ventilation systems when feasible. I think we said this before.
Oh, yeah. I think
Stay
this is...
outside, blah, yeah. It
Yep.
says wind is king, basically. And
Yep.
that's just basically the same exact thing we just said before. But that holds a lot of weight.
It does.
I gotta say, I'm kind of surprised by them saying not to seal it, but I can absolutely say it. Like, I know where my duct tape is. I know where the sheet plastic or even garbage bags are. How many people do? Like, can eat? Oh yeah, I know it's on the second drawer on the left side.
But I guess
can't do that.
But I guess that kind of makes sense because think about it. Like, if a train of chlorine derailed where you live, by the time and completely just split open, by the time the fire department got there, by the time they were able to make the announcement and figure out where the plume was going, there's no time for people to be sealing up their windows and stuff like that. Like, it's just, and I guess it's just not nearly as effective.
Yeah, it seems like it's, now that I think about it, it is probably a long time to get all these things done, and you could probably just go into a closet, close the door, and be in an almost zero atmosphere.
Right.
Let the rest of the house be in a 13,
Right.
20.
Just sit there until you're told to come out.
That's a good point. Never really thought about that.
All right, so for something like this, right, how do we establish the safest environment possible inside? We want to go ahead and turn off the HVAC units, and this is going to help minimize airflow.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I mean, if you just think about it, close the windows, move people inside, get into preferably a room with a door and no windows. Maybe put the old towel underneath the bottom, and that's a quick one. I could throw a couple of cushions. I can take off my shirt, my jacket, put it on the bottom. That's a quick, easy stop. But I'm minimizing the volume in my area.
And you know what shocked me about this report? Because before this, I would have turned around and said, hey, listen, depending on the chemical property, you might want to tell people to go up the upper portions of the house. They're saying that didn't matter at all because of the interior currents of the flows within the house. It actually mixed up the air relatively well, and the vapor density didn't matter at all.
See, there was a expose, and I'll see if I can find the video. I'm going to write it down right now. Chlorine video. There was an expose of something that happened in, I want to say Syria. There was a bombing, and it was a chlorine bomb. And they said, and I remember this very vividly. They said that in this area, they know whenever there's a chlorine bombing, and they can smell the chlorine to run to the roofs.
Oh,
but the problem,
they're not inside.
Right. But they all know to go to the roof because the chlorine's a heavy hanging gas to go downstairs.
Right.
So the problem with this specific example was the bomb was on the roof.
Oh, I remember that.
And you know what? If I can find it, I'm going to see if I can add it to the show.
Yes.
I'll see
And
if I
they
can
found
add
a
it to
whole
YouTube.
bunch of dead people on the roof.
Yes.
Because the barrel bomb was actually on the roof.
Yeah. If you have a moment, please head over to iTunes and leave us a positive review. And don't forget to check out the book, National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, or NERD, on Amazon.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at the Hazmat Guys. And take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484 and go to www.thehazmatguys.com and sign up for the newsletter.
We seriously look forward to your feedback about any of the information provided, and we also want to hear about interesting incidents that you were a part of. So you can send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com. And remember, any of the information that you share with us, if we put it on air, can always remain anonymous.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job. Get into the job.